What's good, folks? Welcome to another episode of the Cover One Film Room, the show that gives you the hows and the whys behind both the good and the bad of the Buffalo Bills. I'm one of your two hosts, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Eric Turner. And Eric,
Yes.
the Bills continue their winning streak, 5 in a row. They moved to 8-2. We're live in this episode, which is something that we haven't done in the regular season thus far this year, and we haven't done in a while. So it's been a minute for that. So we're getting into the saddle with that. The Bills are getting into this winning saddle, heading back home to face the Kansas City Chiefs. But before we can move on to fully into Chiefs week, we got to put a nice bow on Colts week. Again, the Bills go to Indianapolis, get another win. How you feeling? How's it going?
Good. Knocking the rust off a little bit. Going live. We've been recording offline just because it's worked better for our schedules, recording a little earlier. I agree. Go Bills. The Bills are stacking wins. And it's obviously fun to break down film when they are winning. It's a lot more, tough to break down film and discuss and engage and try to be positive when the team is losing. But
I was gonna say and get yelled at because we're for everything.
Exactly. And so we appreciate all the engagement either way. But I'm excited to break down this Colts film. There's some very good storylines from that game, some very good coaching points from that game, obviously some great film that we're going to break down. So we're going to kind of focus on the defensive side of the ball, what the Bills' plan was as far as stopping Jonathan Taylor, how they did that, and how effective that was. So grab your beverage and join us tonight in the film room.
Yeah, this was one that kind of looked a little. It's funny, like the game starts out, you get the pick six right off the bat, and then it gets like a little hairy for the Bills, but then a little hairy for the Colts, and just the way the pendulum swung in this game. But when you look at it holistically, both sides of the ball, but especially defensively, I think another game, we've talked about it in really the past several weeks. We talked about it on Twitter. We've talked about it on the shows. Another game that kind of fell into, especially again for the defensive side of the ball, another game of, hey, we're going to come out and do what we do. We'll see what you do, and then we're going to counter off of that. We'll adjust either individually or schematically. And I think this game was really good, again, on that defensive side of the ball for the Bills, in being a microcosm of that. Multiple concepts that worked in the first quarter or second quarter for the Colts did not work, later in the game. And you were seeing the Bills key in on certain things. You were seeing pre-snap communication. You were seeing different movement, post-snap and even pre-snap a little bit. This is something that we're continuing to see with regularity. And then again, to an overall strong performance, along with, some good turnover luck. Again, the ball bouncing the Bills' way, and they continue to cause havoc and turning the ball over. And a good performance for this defense as, they continue to move forward on this season and maybe potentially welcome Matt Milano back soon.
Yeah, they opened up that practice window for him. So it's going to be exciting to watch him develop over the next couple of weeks or a few weeks to get back into game shape and maybe, make it his first appearance of the season. And I agree, man. I think, it was still a feeling out process. I think they had a legit plan when it came to slowing down Jonathan Taylor. We're going to show you several plays where the Bills sent run blitzes, run stunts, nothing out of the ordinary, their normal game and how they want to, fill gaps and show that gap integrity. They were gashed a couple times. They had that 58-yarder, a 22-yarder. But besides that, aside from, the first half, maybe the first quarter and a half, I thought they adjusted well. And more importantly, I think the personnel adjusted well. They started to get a good feel for how the Colts were attacking them, what concepts they were using, the different looks that they were using to get to those inside zone runs, those split zone runs. Obviously the big 58-yarder was more of a gap run, and we're going to break that down tonight. But I think it's interesting because the feeling among Bills Mafia is that, the Bills are struggling on run D, and they have given up some explosive plays. Obviously, in this game, that was the case as well. Matt Williamson at Williamson NFL posted this stat chart earlier about NFL defensive explosive play rates allowed as of week 10. And if you find the Bills, they're actually 7th in when it comes to rushing explosives over the last month against obviously some really explosive backs and teams. And I think that kind of goes against the way that Bills Mafia feels about the Bills run defense, because they have been gashed here and there.
Mhm.
but it's not as high a variance as you think it is. And it really goes to what our boy Aaron Quinn has been harping on when he looked at the advanced metrics of the Bills defense when we're talking against the run. I think the Bills are a lot better than it feels on paper. And we're especially when you're talking advanced metrics, which is something we look at every single day.
Yeah, every single day. It's funny, like, especially looking at it from a run perspective, it's something that I've been, tracking to a decent degree, from the run game, and it's nice too to have like what we have in terms of the access that we have to the different
Yes.
sites and plays to kind of be able to put everything together. But you'll see like the Bills have given up, some of they're close to leading the league in the like 10 plus yards or runs of 10 plus yards given up, but they're also towards the top of the league in stuff percentage, which is runs that go for 0 or less yards.
Yes.
And even just that right there is such a good microcosm of who they are. Like, they will get got, but then they will get you. And despite the fact that they've been gashed, they're still towards the top of the league in terms of EPA per rush allowed in a good way. They are sound more often than not, but they get gashed, or they get gashed in certain moments, and it makes things seem worse than they are. And even just with this past game with Jonathan Taylor, right? You mentioned some of the big runs. His runs in this game, really quickly: 1 yard, no yards; 2 yards, 3 yards; 58 yards, no yards; -4, 13, 3, no yards; 1 yard; 22, 2 yards, 2 yards; 4 yards, no yards; -1, 3, no yards; 2 yards, 3 yards. So he had a couple of big chunks in there. The majority of the game, he wasn't really getting much. It was maybe 2 yards here, no yards here, 3 yards here. The Bills really kind of stayed ahead of him in that regard, which is an accomplishment considering how great of a back he is and how good of an offensive line they have, even, that they were missing Kelly at center in that game.
Yeah, no doubt. And they had 7 runs that gained 0 negative yards, to your point. And honestly, if you flip it and how you felt about the Bills rushing offense, I think most people were like, hey, I think the Colts got the better of them when it came to rushing versus rushing. But it's honestly pretty similar. But again, you take away the explosive. And I know you can't do that. I know you can't do that. But the Bills did a great job outside of that play. And that play, as we're going to break down here in a minute, was a play that the Colts didn't really show on paper and film all that often. And it was interesting to hear Bobby Babich and his presser talk about how, and I think it was Taron Johnson too. It was a different look. It was a new look. It's not something they have seen before. And then the second play, the second explosive, that 22-yarder was just a bad fit by Dorian Williams, as we'll break down. So it's interesting to hear those nuggets come out because, you're always looking for that context. And we're going to show you that context with the film, but also with the explosive plays, because I feel like each week, even us as content creators will say, oh, they got gashed. They got gashed on that play. And I think it just becomes associated with immediately bad defense when really, as you said, we always talk about the Bills are a havoc style defense. They want to shoot up the field. They want to attack up the field, en route to the quarterback. Sometimes they create those havoc plays, those tackle for losses, those turnovers, as we saw a bunch in this game. Sometimes it opens up the gap for the running back, like you saw in that running back, Jonathan Taylor. He can damn near take it to the house. Good job good job hustling by Taylor Rapp and Dorian Williams. But those things happen. I think that is what fans need to understand when it comes to the context of the run defense.
Absolutely. And that's what it is on every week. For every, and this is hyperbole, but like for every gashed run, you usually see like 2 to 3, stops for no gain or a negative play here or there. And, just I was trying to find a tweet where I had it, but I couldn't find the tweet. So I just went and looked it up again. So right now the Bills have given up the 6th most runs of 10 or more yards with 38 on the year, but they are second for the in terms of stuff percentage at 23.7%. Again, those are runs that go for 0 or less yards. And then overall, even with the gashing in terms of giving up these giant runs, they are 6th in EPA per rush at negative 0.12. And EPA, again, is measuring expected points added on an individual run basis. So even taking into account all of those explosive runs they've given up and those chunks given up, the amount of stuffs they have and stops and negative plays that they've created actually swing the pendulum in their favor. So when you look at it again, overall from an EPA per rush perspective, And I'm using that because I know a lot of people don't believe in DVOA, even though they should, because it accounts for context and opponent. But if you look at it from an EPA per rush perspective holistically, seeing where they sit on this year, again, at 6th overall, they're not a bad run defense. And we've even had some of those individual qualms, especially from the second wave of guys that have come through. So it's fair to have some concern, but overall, it's not some, leaky, worrisome spot. And we're going to dive into the tape now to kind of show you folks some of those pieces.
Yeah, so let's look at those. This play. This is the gap run. Left guard is pulling and leading out wide, and typically, when teams run these gap runs, you're going to see it kind of hit up inside, usually A or B gap. So the Bills,
I love that the Colts did this. I thought this was so kind of creative.
And honestly, it's something they did against the Bills a few years ago when they played them. But pay attention to how many guys are in the box. You kind of have Taron on the fringe, 2 tight ends right there. But again, 2 high safety look. And Babich did say after this game he wishes he could have this call back on top of a better run fit and better technique. But as I said, typically this gap run's hitting up inside. So everyone's kind of, it even shows as if it's going to hit up inside. But of course, you'll see the guard. He's immediately getting out wide, getting a nice crackback block by Pierce on Taron Johnson. And see, you'd like to see Damar Hamlin fit this up a little better instead of coming inside as that secondary run defender. Cody Alexander, great follow on Twitter. Our guy when it comes to breaking down defensive film. He stated that he should be off the hip of the nickel here out wide. So a bad run fit by Damar Hamlin on this play. And that allows, obviously, Taylor to get the edge and perimeter. And he's obviously going to pull away from Hamlin. But as I said, great hustle by Rapp, great hustle by Williams to minimize this explosive play and keep 6 points off the board on this play.
Yeah, I really love the hustle from Dorian. Like, his head is tilted back. He's pumping arms and legs, doing everything he can. And this is just a simple, it's not what a lot of fans want to hear, but Eric, we talk about this all the time. Like, the opponents get paid too, and sometimes they have a good design, and sometimes they execute really well. This is nice. Great seal on the crack, like you said, from Pierce. He traps Taron inside. So you've got Taron inside along with Hill. So you've got 2 bodies in one gap, and there's Hamlin coming down, like you said, a little more inside as that, secondary fit. And this is where I think you see someone like kind of the athletic limitations for Hamlin. If his angle isn't on point, him needing to adjust and kind of have that burst or that quickness or that acceleration to be able to close down Taylor a little bit before he hits the line or as he gets through.
And to be fair, Taylor's speed is elite. So
that's what I was going to say too. Like, so you'd like to see, some better athleticism from Hamlin, but also Jonathan Taylor, like, once he sees this and he kicks it into high gear, like, that's going to be tough for anyone, which again is even more of a kudos to Dorian Williams for, being able to make that play in conjunction with Rapp. And that's just, what it is. Taron's the force player, gets pinned inside. Damar doesn't adjust his angle until it's a bit too late, and he doesn't have the athleticism to get it. But again, you tip your cap, well designed, well executed, and then Jonathan Taylor being a horse.
Yeah, as they said on defense, that was kind of a new look and wrinkle. And so you see the adjustment that the Bills did in the third quarter here at top of and the Colts, this is what Brady does as well is, hey, if something worked, we're going to come right back to it, right? In the second half, usually in that first drive, I always tell you guys, watch film of Brady and opposing teams when they come out of half and see and what worked in the first half, they're obviously going to use it again. So you see here, 1st and 10, this is a 1-yard loss. So now you see the difference. You see Hamlin coming down into the box. So instead of that too high look, you have the box filled. Taron Johnson still in the same spot. So now you're bumping those linebackers over to the strong side of the formation. That's why they bring Alec Pearson a little bit more to pick up Johnson. But now look at the fit here by the Bills defense here, specifically Dorian Williams and Terrell Bernard. Now you have someone to stop against the interior, gap run. If this was to be a power run up inside, you gave Dorian Williams that leverage to beat that block. Now you have Hamlin on the cutback, but more importantly, you have someone to help with the bounce. That's Terrell Bernard scraping over the top, and he's able to help, kind of contain that run along with Christian Benford out wide. And now you have a 1-yard loss. This was a great adjustment by Bobby Babich and his staff, and great work by the guys on the field that recognizing this play and attacking downhill.
Absolutely. You see the recognition from Dorian and Bernard right away. As soon as Pierce, comes in that short motion and comes down, they react, they call it out. And then the synchronization of everything, like you said, they bump. I love the call out from Dorian as soon as the ball is snapped. You can see him indicate with that left hand
Yeah.
a little bit, communicating either, for Bernard to scrape over the top or flow over the top, or, that pulling guard. So reacting to what they're seeing. You get the fit from the backside from Hamlin. Everything is accounted for here. And then
Mhm.
Bernard doing a great job just flowing through as Taron and Rousseau gum up the works. And I love that you mentioned Christian Benford, such a good force player. And if even when he's not making the tackle, his positioning and what he's doing, he forces Taylor to cut back here right into the pursuit from Bernard and Dorian and Rousseau, kind of moving
Mhm.
down the line. But again, putting that in conjunction with the first play we showed, this is the same play, slightly different presentation from the Colts, but this is the Bills defense recognizing it, adjusting at the second level individually and schematically to make this be a stop versus being gashed last time on a play that had a wrinkle, was something they hadn't seen before. This is what football is. You get got and then you adjust and you make sure it doesn't happen again.
Right. And we talked about at the top how the Bills use run blitzes and run stunts to, kind of fill out all the gaps and show that gap integrity. And so you're going to see several plays that, coming up that kind of lead into this. So second quarter, 8:45, 1st and 10 situation. This is a 2-yard gain on a split zone run. Split zone was kind of their primary run
Mhm.
play that they
Mhm.
used against the Bills and had moderate success until the Bills started run blitzing like this. So you're bringing Hamlin down off the edge. And usually when they do that and they're sending him, they're slanting the DN and the D tackle backside, going backside as far as gaps go. And you'll see them disrupt that blocking. So they're running inside zone, and they typically like to do it opposite the back, because obviously if they're running inside zone, you're usually, working off that center. So they usually do opposite. They run this run blitz opposite that.
Mhm.
And you can see how that allows Daquan Jones to kind of get leverage and throw that center. And now he just disrupts this entire blocking scheme. And the Bills now can just flow to the ball and shut this play down. Again, the Colts had moderate success up until the Bills started kind of, getting a feel for how they were going to run these inside zones, especially out of shotgun. I don't
Mhm.
like seeing Jonathan Taylor in shotgun and running the ball. I like him when he's on the dot better and this
Mhm.
quarterback's under center. That's a whole nother discussion. But Bills run blitzes and run stunts were pretty effective overall when it came to this game plan against the Colts.
And I think that's something that's been pretty symptomatic of this defense, especially the past several weeks, past month, really even like 5, 6 games. They have been good at adjusting as the game goes along, whether it's, from a numbers perspective and walking a safety down in the box, or having those run blitzes and really kind of causing some havoc up front. The numbers are fine. You've got 5 blockers for the Colts, and you've got 5 on the D line plus Dorian. So that means you've got a body for every gap. So you're accounted for. And then the stunt adds even more on top of it. I really like when they start using these. I like that just disruption and chaos that they can cause, and it really is a nice kind of added layer to what they normally are from a standard perspective, or at least how they start the game out, which is like we talk about every week. 4 down, over front, one
Right.
gap. Although they will do some gap and a half, and you'll see some guys fall back a little bit. And so good on the call here, and good on the execution. You can see how it can mess up, especially for something like a zone block, which is based on blocking an area in relation to your man. You can see how it gums up the works just with a
Mm-hmm.
simple changing of a gap. And there we go. We have everybody hats. We have Damar's hat on the outside, Hill on the inside, Daquan and Ed on the inside, AJ squeezing down. Dorian is then fitting from the second level and following Taylor's track. The works get gummed up and we get a stop.
Yeah, it's just great leverage. When you have zone blocking, everyone's kind of stepping to the same in the same direction to the same side. And so when you send these guys and stunt them inside and send some off the edge, it disrupts the harmony of that blocking
Mm-hmm.
scheme because again, they're trying to stay on the same level in lockstep as they are blocking to their right. Right. So it's good to see those run stunts against teams that run a lot of zones. So here's another play that the Bills kind of use kind of mug the gaps to kind of gum up the works, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
Second quarter, 12 minutes in the quarter, 1st and 10 situation. This is a 3-yard gain on a mid zone run again versus this kind of like run blitz by the linebackers. You can see Bernard and Dorian trying to time that snap, getting right up into the gaps. Why are they doing that? Because again, it's zone blocking. So you're trying to disrupt things as a ball is snapped, whether that's, shooting backside or just mugging gaps. Now the blocking is going to change, and it gives the Bills leverage. Watch Bernard, watch Austin Johnson, watch Dorian Williams stick Quentin Nelson on this play. It just great work by the Bills defense, getting hat on a hat and then just winning with leverage. Look at the technique, by Terrell Bernard. I mean, look at how he uses his hands. Again, not the biggest guy, but he uses his hands well, leverages his gap, but then uses his hand to throw this blocker by as the running back looks to cut it back inside that gap as Austin Johnson gets sealed. Just great work by the Bills defense. A slightly different look. Again, a little more aggressive on the snap. They're coming downhill. They're disrupting that blocking and making a play.
Yeah, and again, tying that in as the game goes along, so doing little different things that you can do defensively. So they have this mugged up look, this run blitz. They time it. I love that call there. Terrell Bernard, you said it, and you say it all the time, whether it's on the show or just in general. Like, technique is so important to him because of his size there and his ability to just take on. Like, look at him just discard right there. Like, good hand placement right there on the arm. Sheds, even Dorian too. We've talked about Dorian using more of his length and his hands to kind of shed blockers and disrupt a little bit. Look what he's doing to Quentin Nelson. And then pushing him through, squeezing him through. Yep, right into the running back. Bernard falling off of his blocker into the hole to make a play on Taylor. And then you can even see Taylor, he's not hitting completely downhill. He's trying to eye what he's got. He looks to cut a little, but then Austin Johnson's in that gap. So he decides to go to where Bernard is. But right at that moment, Bernard is coming free off the blocker. This is a good team defensive effort off of a nice little adjustment, versus what they normally throw from their fastball. Good physicality up front. And like you said, hat on a hat, get in your gaps, make a play. And then you have DeMar coming from the second level as well.
All right. So now let's kind of look at this play. This is the explosive run and a misfit. And this was a play that the Bills were trying to disrupt it. There's sort of like a run stunt here. Watch Bernard. He comes up into that gap because they're thinking that, hey, it's going to be another zone run. So you have Daquan Jones, Bernard hitting their gaps. And Dorian Williams, I mean, this is perfectly set up for him.
Yeah.
He needs the hug right here. He needs a hug right here in this gap. And this play is blown up. This play is blown up. It's a good run stunt, but instead he overruns it. And then boom, now you have, look how big of a gap this is now because Dorian overran it. So this is a gap integrity issue. This is a misfit by him when this was a really nice little stunt and disruption here, play call by Bobby Babich. Dorian has just got to come under control and fit it up properly because he honestly could have just shot right here and made a tackle for loss.
I saw this immediately on the broadcast. I think they showed it from the angle behind the Colts, and you could just see it. And it's so frustrating. They've got enough bodies for every gap. There is 6 blockers for the Colts, and there's 7 bodies for the Bills. So you've got the ability to put a body in every gap. And like you said, like the run stunt works perfectly. Dorian scrapes over perfectly. He triggers right on the action from the tight end, and he just gets a little too wide. And you can even see Rapp calling it out. This is drawn up from a defensive perspective so beautifully. And he, like you say, he just needs to hug it a little tighter, not get too wide. He literally puts himself completely out of position, which is unfortunate because he read it. He did everything right. The process was sound. You didn't get the result that you wanted, but from an upfront perspective, and even Dorian himself, again, sound process, not the right result you want. Good on him for getting on his horse and, again, getting downfield to help make the stop, but just a little too wide, which is a shame because they had this drawn up well up front, and he did a good job triggering on the movement and fitting right to where he needed to be.
Yeah, just good stuff when it comes to his hustle. There's no doubt his hustle, his motor is top notch. He never quits on a play, as you've seen several times just in this film room. You see that each and every week. But let's go to probably the player of the game, Taron Johnson, our dog. And on this play, this interception, this is our Easy Loan Auto Sales play of the game. His interception against Flacco was a thing of beauty. Great work by him. And I loved his explanation after the game when it came to this. And so we'll break that down here in a second, but I want you to listen into his audio from his post-game presser as we move forward in this film and what happened on this play. Oh, you can't hear it, can we? Let's
No,
see
we
here.
cannot.
Why?
Man, this is what happens when we go live. As
Yeah.
Eric starts to pull that up, just again, a really
I'm not
nice
sure what
play
he
from Taron. Oh, there we go.
Here we go. Here we go.
There we
All
go.
right. So listen. This is from the Dolphins game, guys.
I'm not sure what he was saying, but I've seen that play before. You know what I'm saying, against a different team, and I played it differently. I mean, we was in a different call too, but in the game, I seen it. I played it differently, and I feel like they were expecting me to play it a different way, and I took the ball.
So I'll break down what he meant there. So different call. This is more of a cover 6 look, but I think the technique that Flacco was expecting was very similar to this. So I want you to pay attention to the guys I circled, Taron, Damar Hamlin there, and how they're kind of messing with their stems there and, being up near the line of scrimmage, then dropping off. But watch the technique that Taron uses on this play. So on the snap, cover 6, he is looking to trap that tight end right there. Usually when a tight end runs an out, or if they run like a curl, he jumps it. So that is him trapping if that happens. But on this play, there was no reason for him to trap this because it was just like a simple curl over the middle of the field. And that's how they snuck the wide receiver down the seam. Now, in the Colts game, it was a little different. It was a different call, first of all. It was more of a cover 3 look with a 5-man pressure, kind of similar to what the Bills were using on those run stunts. Mm-hmm. So you see him up near the line of scrimmage. You see Damar Hamlin come down on the snap. And right here, with this out route coming, Joe Flacco is expecting Taron to jump this and trap it. And that's why he thinks he can just sail this route, like you saw to Hill, right down the seam. But as Bobby Babich said, no, Taron did a better job with his technique on this play, hung a little high, did not jump that, did not trap that tight end, which in many ways he could have and been all right. He hung back, showed a little patience, and he was rewarded for that, right, Anthony?
Yeah.
For the interception and then the house call. And that's why this play is our easy loan auto sales play of the game. Taron Johnson putting up 6 points for the Bills defense.
Love to see the film study and the preparation make its way into the post-game pressers and the in-game stuff. And again, this is another one you could see it right on the broadcast in Taron's drop is as that little stick route happens from the tight end from Mo Alley Cox. You can see Taron, even from Flacco's perspective, right? Like it looks like Taron is about to settle, and trap and sit on this route. And so Flacco's thinking, okay, we know the Bills will play cover 3. Also, everybody in the league plays cover 3. It's still the predominant coverage in the league. I'm going to hit this seam ball, which he did later in the game to Josh Downs. So this is something that they wanted to do. He's thinking he's got it. And like you said, Taron just played it differently and didn't settle, continued to kind of work upfield and carry a little bit with Downs. And you can tell from the way Flacco put this ball, he was trying to drop it in and kind of let Downs come back to it a little bit. He puts it away from Benford on the outside, from Taylor Rapp as that post safety. And you guys can see that as Downs tries to catch this ball once Flacco throws it, you can see him it's like Flacco's trying to throw it.
Tua drops it in there usually, right?
To make him kind of settle in that zone rather than lead him a little bit. But because Taron continued to sink, he gets in that window and intercepts it. And then you get the added bonus of being able to take it to the house. Like just a really good job from him. Great work and effort from Rasul Douglas, who you highlighted there, making the block on the front end. This was such a nice tone setter early on. First play of the game, you come out. And I think this kind of also set the tone a little bit, like kind of mentally for Flacco a bit in a turnover game. He's taken care of the ball traditionally these past couple of years in the twilight of his career. And you kind of Jedi mind trick him a little bit on that first play. And again, different coverage, bit different scenario versus what we saw in the Miami game, but a similar, route concept that Taron is defending, playing it differently, and it paying huge dividends.
Yeah, this is awesome stuff. And just watch, I got it in slow motion. Watch Flacco. He's looking right at that tight end, trying to bait Taron. You see him kind of take his hand off the ball and almost step like he's going to throw the tight end, but then watch his helmet just go up the field more rather than to the tight end. So very good patience by Taron and great technique, as Bobby Babich said in his presser, and then the wherewithal to take it to the house. That's why this play, like you said, was a tone setter early for Flacco and the Colts and the Bills defense being on the road. An area and a stadium where they haven't had all that much success recently. So good work by them to set the tone. And that's why this interception is our easy loan auto sales play of the game. Taron Johnson, once again, our guy, our dog, making an impactful play, probably the most important player on the Bills defense this year.
Absolutely. It was also fun too to see him and another really great nickel and Kenny Moore for the Colts like duel a little bit in this game, each making some plays against the
Yeah.
run and the pass. Yeah, really cool to see two of the best at their position go at it. Again, the making it look easy. Easy Loan Auto Sales play of the game, sponsored by our friends at Easy Loan Auto Sales, who, regardless of your credit situation, Easy Loan can help get you behind the wheel and on the road to better credit. All of their vehicles include a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty, and with 3 convenient locations in Buffalo, Lockport, and Niagara Falls, they can get you driving today. Go to easyloanauto.com to start your accelerated approval. Thank you very much to them as always. And got to add Taron into the record books for making it look easy play as we start to tally these up for our end of the year awards.
Yeah, that's awesome play for him. Awesome, game for him. It's not the last time we're going to talk about him, but we're going to move forward with another turnover. Obviously, again, when the Bills are getting turnovers, and it's something they've done really well under McDermott over the last few years, and really since he's been in Buffalo, this was one where, we're getting a good look at Von Miller off the edge here to the top of the screen in that 2-point stance, and how his burst and explosiveness to attack the quarterback, Joe Flacco, really forced Flacco to get rid of the ball quickly, and for Austin Johnson to get that interception, something that he's done a couple times this year. So great work by the Bills D-line here. Pressure from Von Miller off the edge as the Colts try to set up the screen that, if connected with Taylor, if Flacco hits Taylor, this is probably a touchdown. But Austin Johnson somehow scrapes his way in front of the running back, and he's able to pick him off for another interception in this game.
His second interception of the year on a screen, like very similar both times, that him just working across and the ball kind of falling into his lap. Fun fact, Austin Johnson tied for 14th in interceptions this year. So it's funny, I joked with this play of kind of like tired, Bill should bring back Micah Hyde. And I was like, wired, the Bill should move Austin Johnson to safety. Like, everybody's come upset about the safeties. Look at all the plays on the ball Austin Johnson's making. Good hustle, good effort. But like you pointed out, Von really, again, the pressure in general heats up Flacco, but Von, who in this game, multiple plays against the run, multiple plays heating up Flacco, that snap timing, that get off, the wherewithal of recognizing what's happening, but then at being able to have the juice physically to get off the line. He ran the arc on the right tackle so many times in this game, just purely because of get off and then hand technique to be able to swat down that outside arm with regularity. And like you said, if Von doesn't heat him up and if Johnson doesn't make this pick, this screen is on. There's 2 lead blockers out in front, one of them being Quentin Nelson. You've got a body on a body outside by the numbers, like you said, and then you've got a defender for the Bills trailing his man downfield. So like the fake route there is basically taking that defender out. This realistically, especially in the hands of Jonathan Taylor, easily could have been a house call. Yeah, absolutely. Like, this is at worst a big chunk play, but realistically, probably a touchdown. And because of Von's get off and then the hustle and work from Austin Johnson scraping over the top. And again, he puts himself in that position and Flacco kind of gift wraps it to him. But this is Johnson kind of seeing what's going on. He feels that blocker. He sees Taylor move. He works towards that side. He's trying to get there, and his eyes are on the ball right there. And he's being grabbed. It's just a good job from Austin Johnson and from Von Miller too.
Yeah, just great work for that turnover. I did not see that coming again, at least. Just awesome stuff from the D tackle once again, getting that interception. Moving forward, here's the Greg Rousseau strip sack here, third quarter, 5:43 on the clock, 2nd and 10 situation. And this play all around is just awesome. It's another pressure look from the Bills, and the Colts are trying to do a double move to the bottom of the screen. So Flacco was getting a deep drop and holding on to the ball. But the power and length by Rousseau, man, were just great. And I love this. Once again, they're sending that pressure off the edge. So you have the D tackle, the DN, slicing inside. You have Hamlin coming off the edge. And what that does is it puts everybody one-on-one, right? And it gives everyone one-on-ones. Then you got Rousseau versus a backup tackle. And he uses that long arm, obviously that wingspan that, is a physical gift of his, to push and compress the pocket here, but then he uses that inside hand to also strip Flacco. It's filthy, and then tracks the ball. And Hamlin's right there because he blitzed as well. Just awesome stuff from Greg Rousseau, man. He's been phenomenal this year. it's good to see him get those sacks, get those numbers up so that we can work with him when it comes to contract time. You know what I'm saying? Good stuff by him and recovery by Hamlin on this play.
Yeah, this is what we can make note of for the film, but also for the metrics for contract negotiation time. I like that. Yeah, you almost had the hat trick on this one: the sack, the strip, and the fumble recovery. Hamlin gets in that way with the fumble recovery piece, but yeah, just the length showing up and the power attached to it, and how he seamlessly just goes from using that long arm to knock back the left tackle, and then is like, I can just look how just. I've never really seen this. Yeah, no. Just how smooth he just rides that left arm up and over the collarbone and over the shoulder pad right to the ball. And because he keeps doing that with that left arm, that timing of it, Flacco is about to pull the trigger. If he tries to do it with his right arm, the timing probably gets thrown off and Flacco gets this ball out because Rousseau was able to do it with the same arm that he used his long arm with. That's what gets that ball out. And just the hand-eye coordination, the length, the strength, winning that first touch, using that long arm. We've seen between his long arm and then those inside wins is his two go-to moves this year. And this is just, showing up kind of with the God-given ability that you have and being able to play to it, but tied into the blitz that they had, everybody having one-on-one scenarios, good coverage on the back end, and Rousseau taking advantage. Yeah, just look at the power when he gets that long arm in and the hand placement. Right into into that pec, gets control, is able to knock him back, and then seamlessly moves through. Really nice play.
Yeah, and that inside move paired with this power move out wide, that's what's made everything kind of come together so well for him this year. You're seeing these power rushes and burst up the field, and then transition into speed to power. But then you're also seeing how that sets up those inside moves, which we've seen, those arm overs, those swims inside to get him to the quarterback even quicker several times this year. Just great work from him. Timing and anticipating where that QB spot in the pocket was going to be, on top of the technique with the hand usage to compress that pocket, beat that player, and cause that fumble. Great work from him. But another thing I wanted to talk about, going back to Taron Johnson's play, was how they really kind of game plan to show Flacco some different looks and kind of confuse him. The guy's done everything. He's been in the biggest games. He's won the biggest games. He's seen everything when it comes to the quarterback position. So game planning against him, you have to kind of, change some things up and time some things. So I love this little tidbit from Bobby Babich when it came to his post-game presser and how it paired up with the sack from Taron Johnson. So listen in real quick to Bobby Babich.
There definitely was a chess match piece to it, but it was, we knew how we wanted to present things to them. We had to find the right spots to present those things, and we still had to take care of 28 in the run game. So
he talked about obviously slowing down Jonathan Taylor. And so that's why you saw them execute run stunts, run blitzes. And sometimes when you send a run blitz, like you've seen it, Hamlin several times, sometimes the team doesn't run it, right? And sometimes they pass it, but you're still able to gap out. You're still able to create pressure. And you saw that a bunch in this game. So here is Taron Johnson's sack, and it's a third quarter. Again, top of the second half, 2nd 11 situation. But look at how the Bills are presenting this. This is what he's talking about. You have what appears to be man coverage, everyone down in the box, kind of looking at their man. But then watch how things change as the ball snaps. The Bills don't bring pressure on this play. So while it looks like they may be bringing pressure playing man, they only rush 4. They run that creeper pressure. So they're sending Taron off the top of the screen, and they're dropping Greg Rousseau to the bottom. It's a simple cover 3 creeper. But much like we saw in camp, and we saw the Bills have a safety down, and then boom, on the snap, kind of get to the post. We have a safety in the post. Boom, as the ball snap, he's getting down into that flats area. You see that spin, that presentation is drastic pre to post snap, and it changes. That picture changes, and that's what you get, that cover 3 creeper. And this is important because now look at Rasul Douglas, man. This is just beautiful.
Great.
This is Trey White stuff. This is what Trey used to do so well. He's a cover 3 defender, and so a lot of teams, they would just say, hey, you're a deep third defender. You're not matching anyone. You just get to your landmark. Play that deep third. No. He squeezes inside here. All right. He's not guarding grass. He's getting his eyes across the field on that deep crosser by, I think, was that Mitchell? Mitchell running that
Mitchell.
deep crosser. So he's taking away that deep crosser, and that's exactly where Joe Flacco is looking.
Yep.
And so he has to move on in his progression. And when the coverage is in tune and in sync with the rush, that's how you get this sack here by Taron Johnson. Great coverage. It's complementing the pass rush by Taron Johnson, and Johnson does a great job too here.
Yeah,
Watch Johnson. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He again, it's like he's using a long arm himself.
Yeah,
he pries open the upfield shoulder of Taylor to kind of put him behind the quarterback. And then he flattens and climbs the pocket for the sack. Man, awesome stuff on this play. Complimentary rush, coverage, technique, awareness, route combination by Rousseau. There's so much good on this play. Kudos to Bobby Babich and this staff when you're talking, presenting, and showing different presentations to a quarterback of Joe Flacco's status.
Absolutely. And yeah, you hit pretty much everything for this. This was one of my favorite plays here. I love the late safety spins. We see it all the time, rock and roll your safeties. The Bills love to do this. Like you said, we talked about it in camp. It was one of our big things when we were there on that Sunday. Rousseau makes this play so much, and you can see it from the end zone angle as well as the play plays through. Flacco is looking to Mitchell. That is who he's going to first. He's looking to Mitchell on that deep over. He's looking at Douglas, and then you've got it highlighted there on the cone. Watch his eyes. Boom. He's looking to the middle of the field. He's looking to get that ball to Mitchell, but he knows it's not there. His eyes go back. He tries to get it to Pierce, who's running the dig. So they only have they max protect on this with the play action. They only have a 2-man route combo or concept. So Mitchell's taken away. He tries to get his eyes to Pierce. Bernard starts to sit in it. He pulls the ball down. And then by the time he does that, pass rusher extraordinaire Taron Johnson beats Jonathan Taylor and gets the sack. I love Sims. I love creepers. It was nice how this one worked out, but just a great job by Rasul Douglas. Something that he would do in Green Bay a lot, go find work or the ability to fall off and pick up other guys. I love that you mentioned the Trey White piece, because the first thing I thought of with that was that interception against the Seahawks. And I think 2020 when he's far sideline and just falls off his man and keeps going. That's a really heady play. It's a savvy veteran play. Don't cover grass, go find work. And that's a huge part of what led to the sack.
Right. And so again, you have some turnovers, some big plays when it comes to, strip sacks and sacks all together from Taron Johnson there. But when we're talking pretty defensive plays, this play that the Bills executed where they covered up the mesh was just gorgeous. We're going to talk about it here in a second, but I went over to the Colts feed to get some info on Flacco and how he felt after this game. And he started to talk about the 4th down play where the Bills and Jefferson got the sack here. So I want you to listen in to what Flacco said here, and then we'll break down the play.
No, yeah. They did a good job covering everything up and then kind of passing things off. And, it's went through the progression and then kind of tried to buy some time and just didn't work out.
That's where the coverage and pass rush are working together. And so the communication starts with our boy, Terrell Bernard, air traffic controller. Look at him in the middle of the field talking to the DBs here, specifically Taylor Rapp, because as soon as Jonathan Taylor motions to that side, you can see him point to Taylor Rapp because they are executing the push. If we always talk about a push, as this rail route develops, he goes outside the tackle box. Bernard is not going to carry him. He's going to push him to Taylor Rapp. So Rapp caps that route off. And that's typically what, Ant? That's usually the first read. It's some teams call it an alert. Hey, if you get a certain look, that's the guy you're going to go to. But right there, that's cap. So now Flacco has to move on thanks to that push call. Now look at all the communication from Bernard. He calls the push, and then watch how Flacco is trying to move on his progression. He's trying to hit downs underneath, but because of the great communication, you see Cam Lewis break off and pick up downs coming across the middle, and you'll get a better look at it from the end zone angle. Everyone's covered up. Taron Johnson sits in the middle on that sit route. Everything's covered up. This is one of those plays where the coverage and the pass rush were in unison. The communication was fantastic. It's just awesome stuff. It's a pretty play. It's like poetry in motion when you watch this. This is a play that everyone uses each and every week, each and every game, and the Bills covered this up so well thanks to all the great communication between everyone on the Bills defense.
This was my favorite play of the entire game on either side of the ball. Also, fun fact, if you folks remember, we broke this play down similarly for the Bills last week on the completion to Ray Davis, and we talked about how Miami did not execute a push. They did not have an adjustment, and it's why Ray Davis was wide open there.
Yep.
There is nothing open on this. Earlier, there was a completion on mesh, not with the rail, but to Mitchell on mesh. And it's funny how this kind of played out similarly. Similar thing happened in the Seattle game.
Was the difference.
Yes.
Bernard was not a middle of the field player on that play.
No,
he was rushing,
call.
actually. He was near the line of scrimmage rushing there. This time he's air traffic control.
Yeah. And then Bernard got picked a little bit, had to go underneath, and they had the ball to Mitchell. We saw a similar kind of play out against Seattle where there was a completion on mesh early in the game, and then later a beautiful pass off, very similar to this, with Spector as the air traffic controller on that one. The Bills are so adept at passing off versus mesh, and it is beautiful. And on this version, like you said, so you got that rail from Taylor, and just watch Flacco's eyes from the end zone. So Taylor on that rail route is the number one. That's who Flacco's looking towards. So he looks to Taylor. That's not there. The number two is Downs coming on that underneath drag right there. So here comes Flacco. Let me put my eyes to Downs. That's not going to be there because, as you highlighted with the big words, banjo, here's Cam Lewis slamming on the brakes, communicating and following through with that pass off. He falls off his man, takes Downs. Okay, so now Flacco's got to look somewhere else. The number 3 is that sit route to number 14, Alec Pierce.
Yeah, watch him coming across. He's actually over the top of Downs in man coverage, but he understands the push happened, right, Anthony? That banjo and switch happened. So now what's he do? He sits in the middle.
Yep. And he sits right on it because he knows, oh, this is like mesh rail.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the sit route over the ball. Let me sit in front of the sit route. And then on top of it, Bernard is all over him. And all of that leads to Quentin Jefferson eventually getting free, getting the sack. I love that you highlighted Rousseau right here. I think he's the forgotten man. Yes, he is the forgotten man in all of this. The coverage is great. And, good job on Jefferson finishing off the coverage sack. But look at Rousseau going full Superman there, trying to do everything he can to get in the throwing lane and window of Flacco. That's a really good, again, winning inside, using some of that inside ability, gets into the throwing lane. That also helps get Flacco off the spot a little bit. Jefferson reads the track, hunts down Flacco.
So nice, man.
So nice. I cannot stress enough how hard this is to pass off against mesh with this level of synchronization and this level of coordination. Eric, we see it every week. College, NFL, mesh is a go-to and a man beater like that. Everyone knows, but you can also use it to beat zone at times too. It's hard. And the Bills are just so perfect. Like just how they pass it off, how they communicate it, how they fall off. And again, you're doing it with, Cam Lewis. You're starting to get your starters with it, but also we've seen them do this with Balin Spector. Like this is a coached up piece. So kudos to the players for executing it. Kudos to Bernard, making the difference. But this is something that's drilled into this staff, and they took everything away. It's so fun to watch Flacco just go from 1 to 2 to 3 and each time be like, oh no, and there be nothing there. And also, I thought it was really funny. This comment here from Laura saying that Flacco pretty much got his walking papers after facing our Buffalo Bills. Yeah, the Colts announced today they were going back to Anthony Richardson. So the Bills had a little bit of a hand in that. And just, that's a, man, that's such a great, that's so hard. Like that play is literally designed to beat what the Bills were doing, and the Bills beat it themselves. And they've done it before. That happened. It's just so great.
There's so many layers to it as well, because obviously the Bills they're not a good man coverage team. And so when they do want to call these man coverage calls, they got to have answers or something in place for these type of man beater concepts, because you don't want, even as good as Taron Johnson is, you don't want him having to come all the way across the field and get picked off by Downs.
Yeah, you'll get out leveraged in a heartbeat.
You get out leveraged easily. And so you got to have answers. The Bills do, and you see them do that week in and week out. And again, the push call is one thing between Bernard and Rapp. That's one thing to have covered. But then the banjo and calls that happen at the second level is a whole nother layer to it. It was poetry. Like I said, it was poetry in motion. I mean, it got recognized by a lot of national media and how perfectly that was passed off. it's almost you can't get any better
No.
to defend mesh. Like that was a perfect look at it there. And the Bills did a great job for majority of the day when that concept did come up, aside from that, that play to Mitchell where it was a slightly different look. But we had a comment from RJ about Q Jefferson on the field for a lot of pass downs. Yes, great point. Again, with Smoot hurt, Jefferson pretty much replaced him on all those snaps. Obvious pass rush downs, that second wave of rushers that were more of pass rushers. You saw him a bunch, in there as a pass rusher. Jordan Phillips, I thought both those guys made a difference. Made a difference when it came to the Bills pass rush. You saw Jefferson obviously on that play, but Jordan Phillips had a couple really nice run stops against the Colts. But more importantly, that bumped Austin Johnson back to nose, and he looked more comfortable at that position, a more natural position for him, even with some of that weight loss this year. So I thought even those guys they just picked up made a difference, and they actually played a lot of snaps, all things considered.
Yeah, I pulled it up now. We are Quentin Jefferson had 17 pass rush snaps, 2 pressures, 1 sack, 1 hurry, a pass rush productivity of 10.7, which is actually pretty good. And then Phillips, actually pretty good. And then Phillips had 11 pressures. I'm sorry, 11 pressures, 11 pass rush snaps, 1 pressure, 1 QB hit, a PRP of 4.5, which isn't bad, all things considered. Yeah, I thought there were some worrisome snaps for Phillips, but then a couple good run stops where he's helping to squeeze the gap and helping to make the play. Both times against the right guard.
Ugly wins, right? Yes. Like he got displaced a little bit, but he still kind of pried open the gap and converged on the ball. Not the prettiest of snaps because he was displaced, but somehow they're ugly wins.
Yeah, and I don't care, ugly or pretty or perfect. A win is a win is a win. And yeah, a couple nice I thought early on he was getting displaced and chucked a little bit, but as the game went on, I think both of those stops came in like third quarter, maybe third or fourth. Definitely both were in the second half. He also had
2 run stops.
Yep, 2 run stops, both in the second half. And then he also had a really nice pressure in the fourth quarter, I believe when it was like 30-13 or something like that from a score perspective. Again, beating that right guard. Everything came against that right guard. His pressure and his 2 run stops. But that you just don't want deficiency there. And I will take that. Even if you get displaced a couple times, but then you have a couple good stops or a couple good pressures, that is fine. Just do not be a vulnerability. Do not be a hole. Do not be a deficiency. Make life difficult and do enough to stem the tide for Daquan and Ed Oliver, who, it's a conversation for another time. Ed Oliver flashed in some positive ways in this game, playing like a bit of a monster inside. You're starting to see a little bit from Daquan. If they can get back to the levels that they were at last year and the second level can just hold strong at a mid-level, we could see a lot, better production and consistency from that interior and maybe not have to rely as much on numbers and walking safeties down against the run.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. I think overall, great work by the defense. I think from the top down, when it comes to the scheme, when it comes to the execution on the field, the adjustments that they made by the staff when you're talking X's and O's, but also, again, the recognition by the Bills defense on the road. Great work overall. We want to flip the script real quick to the offensive side of the ball. We're kind of more focused on the defense for this episode. If you're interested more on the offense, take a look at obviously Anthony's timeline and what he's done over the last few days and that film study. I did a film breakdown on Monday about the offense and a few things I kind of wanted to talk about here with you, get your thoughts on it, but also some engagement from our community here. So if you guys have any questions about the offensive side of the ball, stuff you want us to talk about, hit us up with those questions. But I thought the issue on the offensive side of the ball really stemmed with the early downs. I thought they struggled on early downs. So I pulled up some stats thanks to True Media. And if you look at the stats by downs, the Bills had 12 plays that got 0 or negative yards on first down. They had a negative 0.133 throw EPA, that a negative rush EPA at 0.09. Their success rate passing on first down was 20%. Their rush success was 25%. 3.1 yards per play on first down. So for a team that likes to skip third downs, not getting a yardage on early downs, specifically first down, those are the downs where you saw some play action that just wasn't working. You saw turnovers. Both turnovers were on first down. That obviously affects all these numbers. I think those early down struggles really kind of threw off the rhythm of the offense, but also is part of the reason why you saw the Bills have several fourth down opportunities and conversions when we're talking the course of the game.
I love this, kind of visual to put it in perspective. And you talked about the first down pieces, those second down numbers, but the third down numbers too. 9.9 yards per play on third down, a 75% rush success, a 45.5 pass success on third down. That is so hard. And it was, highlighted by several big plays in this game. Allen, second down 2 and third down, big scrambles from Allen, completions from Allen, often in, second and long, third and long situations. It was nice that the Bills were able to kind of balance that a little bit, especially in a game where no Keon Coleman, no Amari Cooper, Dalton Kincaid gets banged up early. He comes back, but isn't really able to go and then exits. So your top 3 pass catching options, along with, Khalil Shakir stays in, but, 3 of your top pass catching options are not available for the majority of this game. 2 were out before the game even started. And this in structure passing game has struggled. And it hasn't been easy for them to kind of dig themselves out of holes a little bit or make up ground if they don't stay on schedule, if they don't stay on track. So it was nice to see how they had answers on second and third and then fourth down, and were able to kind of, chip away at the lack of success on first down and not get stuck behind the 8 ball and find a way out of it in various ways with, the run game, the running back run game, some Allen scrambles, and then Allen making some, kind of Josh Allen mutant alien unicorn plays.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. And someone right at the beginning of the show, Lisa G, says, happy to see Josh running again. I think he has been somewhat cautious due to his hand injury. I think that is huge. I think he knew that they were kind of out of rhythm, in this game, and that he needed to do some of those things. But I think Joe Brady also knew it as well. You saw him, have several designed rushes for Josh, some that worked, some that didn't. But again, you're going into this Chiefs game, you want that on film. You want them to be practicing how to defend those type of things, because the Bills always bust that out against the Chiefs. He has a bunch of rushes against the Chiefs. Last time they played, I think he had something like 12 rushes, and half of them were designed rushes. So Josh is going to have to, do some things like that. He's going to have to be that alien, as you said. But he's also going to have to do things like this, Anthony. This big completion of Dawson Knox on the halfback option play down the field, vertical throw. I thought he did a great job in this game of using his eyes and manipulating defenders. They think the Colts are sending a blitz from the top of the screen, and that, they alert to that. But what ends up happening is they don't bring a pressure from the top. They bring it from the bottom. Josh immediately flipped his eyes to the bottom of the screen, and you see him flash his eyes, more importantly, immediately to James Cook. And what that does is it kind of just holds these guys just a bit, so that, this is Dawson Knox. It takes him a little time to get that, speed up there. He's not a guy that is an accelerator. He's a freight train once he gets going. But you see it holds that corner just enough, and then the throw from Josh was just sick.
He did this to Jalen Jones, number 40 for the Colts there, that corner. He got a couple of times in this game, taking the bait underneath, one on a whole shot to Mac Hollins. This one here, I think even maybe a third too. I love the call out from Allen. Like you made on Allen. You can see him look to the right, and look how immediately he looks to the right, sees that alert is not on, flips the eyes, flips the hips immediately. Okay, cool. It's not on. Bang. Let me pop over to the left and see what I got going here. Give some eyes to James Cook. Look at those Colts trigger down immediately. You get 2 defenders who react, especially, that Will linebacker shooting down on Cook immediately. And that gives Knox that time to build up that momentum and speed. Like you said, he gets even with Jalen Jones. If you're even, you're leaving. And then you talk about it, the throw. Also really nice end zone angle here. You see, as Eric had highlighted there, Allen looks to Cook, how that influences. Look at the ball placement right over the shoulder. That's actually a good catch from Dawson Knox. An over the shoulder basket catch, tracking it. Jones catches him a little bit, goes to ground, maintains, but just a real pretty throw and a big explosive play that came on an alert that wasn't there. And then Allen going through the rest of his reads and progressions. We've seen that several times this year, and it was nice to see. Oh, I love this one.
And we've seen this play over the years too. And this was the very next play after that Dawson Knox completion. And this is Brady opening up that playbook. This is a play the Bills ran a bunch against the Chiefs over the years. So you get the dart call, you get the right tackle pulling Spencer Brown, and you're getting a read element here. So the running back's going out wide, and Josh is reading that defensive end, number 54. That guy plays up the field. He's flat-footed. That's a keep call for Josh. He keeps the ball, and you get really nice, kick out by Brown. He gets a piece of the edge defender, Latu, and then you have Knox climbing to that next level. But look at what this action, this action does to the second level. you know, 45 and 20, and look where their eyes are. They lose track of the ball, and they're not, again, this is not something the Bills have shown a lot of, and this is why they probably didn't practice a lot of it on the defensive side of the ball for the Colts. Keep that in mind as we move forward, and you can see, again, just Allen able to capitalize on that play. Brady opening up the playbook, understanding that, hey, the offense is kind of out of rhythm. We need to, you know, extend the playbook a little more. Let's get Josh going, and he's able to put 6 points on the board.
Yeah, good call there. This was at a point too where, you know, the offense was having some hiccups and it wasn't as smooth as you would like it to be. And the Colts are making some plays. So you get to, you know, a skill set and a trait with Josh Allen that makes him so unique. I love the action that you have highlighted here. Like you see Odingbo gets you know, held up there by the mesh. He's reacting to Ty Johnson. So he sits there. Allen sees it. I'm going to keep this ball. And the second level just frozen. You can even see EJ Speed 45. He's trying to peek around Torrance, like, who's got the ball? Where is it? And then look at after he keeps it. EJ Speed is still watching Ty Johnson and even goes with him a little bit. So he takes himself out of the play. Nick Cross, number 20, the safety, he reacted and came down, which created some better leverage for Deion Dawkins to climb to the second level and get in his way. And then, you know, you highlighted Spencer Brown on that pull, almost get like a long trap action here. You arc Dawson Knox. Latu goes upfield. Spencer Brown just goes through Latu's inside shoulder, takes him out of the play with the positioning. Good on Dawson Knox climbing up to Jalen Jones and taking him out. And then Allen chops down some hand attempts from Nick Cross and walks into the end zone. And then Spencer Brown takes exception and tries to fight Nick Cross after.
Yeah, no, he was just having a discussion with him, according to Spencer. Yeah. He was just having a talk, but it cost him, what, 12 grand?
Yeah. Oh, did he get fined?
I'm pretty sure that's what he was saying on X earlier today. But that sucks. Yeah, nah, that's definitely hitting the pocketbook. But hey, he got paid, and you know we kind of helped him get paid. So
I would say his contract was pretty good. He'll be all right.
You know, we need the Bash brother, right? We need him to protect Josh. You know,
in all seriousness too, like I think there is something to be said for that. Like I feel bad that he lost money, but you, especially in this game, like football, the game of football, but any type of game with physicality, football, hockey, rugby, even basketball to a degree, you need those enforcer types, those guys that'll set the tone a little bit. And he does it within, you know, the hashes, within the sidelines, but also if something happens off, like, and after the play, you know that he's one of those dudes that'll answer. You need those guys that'll stand up and show that, hey, you're not going to push us around. We're not going to take any of your crap. We can give it as much as we get it. Like, that's an important thing. I know it's kind of, we joke about it and laugh about it, but that matters.
Yeah, and in these kind of games, like the Colts game, here's the second quarter play, Josh hitting Hollins, but I want to kind of, you know, preface this by saying, like, the Bills passing game, if you look at this, it was not that good. As far as throw EPA goes. They were very low. You see, it's one of the worst of the season when you include it with the Ravens and Texans game, thanks to True Media. So you can see the bottom three games, those are games that the Bills didn't win. Yeah. And so this kind of puts in perspective on how much they were kind of struggling when you're looking at advanced metrics. So when that happens and those margins are that slim, the alien has to come out. And he now, again, I know he had some turnovers, but these are the type of plays sometimes Josh is going to have to make and probably going to have to make this week against the Chiefs. He's able to escape the pocket, put one of the filthiest moves on the defender, who was a defensive end, Odingbo, and a guy that was in there on a really nice run stunt between him and the edge player. Had him dead to rights, Anthony. Had him dead to rights, but Josh puts this 6 spin move on him, and he's able to, look at this. Oh my gosh. Just broke his ankles. And just look at how frustrated the defender is on the ground. Look how frustrated, because he knows as soon as Josh gets outside the pocket to his right, forget about it. He hits Hollins down the field. Big explosive play prior to half. This allowed them to sneak another 3 points on the board before halftime.
Yeah, these off script, out of structure passes for the majority of the year has been how the offense has really had a lot of success. It hasn't been the in structure passing game. It's been these off script, out of structure plays like you see here. And again, good job by the Colts. And you get a free runner. Allen makes a miss, which it seems like he does with regularity or at the drop of a hat week after week, no matter who the opponent is. Like, just breaks him down. And Odingbo's good. Like Odingbo, Latu, like Quiddy Pay, Grover.
Their D-line's pretty freaking sick, dude.
I was saying, just going through those names there, like they have some dudes that are stout against the run, and as pass rushers as well. So Allen making a guy like him miss, great play. And then the throw, like rolling to his right where he just turns into a Super Saiyan. Look at the trajectory of the ball, drops it right in the bucket to
Heady
Matt
play.
Hollins. Yes, who falls down, but then gets up and gets out of bounds. Very heady play from Mac. And also, okay, if we can go to the
Saves the
side.
timeout, right? Look at
Yes.
McDermott. He
McDermott's
saves him
running
a
down there.
timeout.
He's ready to call it, but Matt gets up, gets out of bounds. Jordan Phillips is there to tell Zaire Franklin, hey, man, I really respect your game. Like,
Yeah.
you're playing so good. Like, I just really love being on the field with you. Typical Jordan Phillips stuff.
Yeah.
But I love if we can go to the sideline angle,
Yeah.
I just wanted to track how QB friendly Matt Hollins is on this play. He is the number one receiver to that 3 wide receiver side. He runs a dig.
Mhm.
And watch the grass and ground that he covers to get into Allen's field of vision. Sees the space, right? Beautiful. Highlight that track. He sees the void in coverage, works to it. He gets all the way across field. Like, this is a super QB friendly play to find that space. Great job by Allen. Makes the free runner miss. Athletic mutant alien unicorn play, ridiculous throw on top of it, the air yards that ball travels, but really good on Mac Hollins, kind of helping to bail his QB out there.
Yeah, and speaking of bailing the QB out, I mean, there are going to be times where Josh, is going to have to bail himself out, and the offense was behind the sticks on this play in the fourth quarter. 8:34 on the clock. The Bills are up 10 points, 23-13, 2nd and 19. And again, backed up situation here, back on the goal line. And Josh probably could have just threw it underneath, but he understood how the defense was getting split right there with that, pattern matching going on by the Colts. And he's able to, again, move the chains. It's great work from Josh. And it's not something he's done a lot of, like Lisa said earlier in the year, earlier in the chat. But it's something that, he's going to have to bust out more, especially when teams don't want to blitz him, but they want to run these stunts in games. When you run these stunts in games versus a mobile quarterback, you open up rushing lanes. Josh understands that, and you'll see him take off from time to time when they do that, especially if they're 4-man games like this. That's some huge rushing lanes that, again, you're not holding your pass rush integrity in rush lanes. And so things like this happen where, the Red Sea parts, and Josh, again, puts another move on Franklin, another Colts defender, and he's able to, once again, move the chains.
And Zaire Franklin's a really good linebacker, having a really good season in coverage and just overall was leading the league in stops coming into this game. So Allen's ability to take off. Also, shout out to Ryan Vandermark on this one. Latu 97 spikes inside on that game from that side. And look at Vandermark just get hands on him and wash him completely out. Takes him out of the play, and that's what helps kind of part that Red Sea a little bit, along with Torrance on his man. Allen escapes, gets upfield, and it's never the smoothest. His moves are always a little like herky-jerky, but they work. Like, he's able to break dudes down, and when you pair that with his long stride, it just works. And Eric, on that last play, what was that? That was a 2nd and 19.
Yeah.
The one we showed prior was a 3rd and 10. So tying that into that first graphic that we showed in terms of what they were on first down versus 2nd and 3rd, really big game, field-changing plays, point creation on that 2nd down and 3rd down that we showed on those last 2 plays.
And here's a 3rd and long play again, 3rd and 8, fourth quarter, 7:04 on the clock. Bills up 10 points, 23-13. And this was like, I wasn't really nervous about this game, until like this portion of the game. I felt like the Bills needed to kind of just like clinch it on this drive. And Josh does it, but he doesn't do it with his physical assets. He's not running it here. He's not throwing it and escaping the pocket and throwing it down the field for an explosive. He actually does it from the shoulders up. It's that trifecta. It's that maturation of Josh. And I say that because if you flash back to earlier in the game, it's a similar situation. It's a 3rd and long play, and you see the Colts show a pressure. Everyone's mugging the line of scrimmage. You see Kenny Moore to the bottom of screen, number 23 coming off the edge. And Josh tries protecting it. He tries putting the running back in the A gap and just running a glance and throwing to the glance route, Duncan K to the top. But as you'll see, he was injured on this play. He could not exploit out of that break. But, Josh tries protecting it and getting the ball out quickly, but it's batted down. So he kind of stored that away for later in the game. Same situation, 3rd and long. Now look at him. He's calling the alert. He sees the same exact pressure. He sees Kenny Moore off the edge again, showing that blitz. They're mugging the line of scrimmage. So what's he do? He has an answer. We've seen it all year. He checks to that wide receiver screen to Shakir, and then our boy does the rest, right? He's able to scamper for 30 yards. We're going to see this play a lot, not just to Shakir, but these wide receiver screens and some of these, blitz calls, the cover zero type calls that beat pressures, we're going to see that a lot this week against the Chiefs. These are going to be in the playbook because you got to have answers versus Spags pressure.
Yeah, Spags is going to get creative with his coverages, with his fronts in terms of who's coming and from where. And if you get into these 3rd and long scenarios, he's going to ratchet up the creativity and the aggressiveness. But within that comes, you opening yourself up to some potential vulnerabilities because there are voids behind it. And we even see it on this one. And, I love the connection earlier. So 3-by-1 formation. Each time the 3 wide receivers are to the field side, and we just get a nice alert and easy button to Khalil Shakir. We've got numbers outside. We've got a hat on a hat. So there's Samuel, there's Hollins. And here comes Ryan Vandermark getting out in front, the freight train, runaway train on the tracks here. Bang, puts Franklin down and then keeps going. Look at him get upfield and get more onto Nick Cross. Like, for as much as Shakir makes this play, and he's been doing this all year, he's 3rd in the NFL in yards after catch this year behind only Alvin Kamara and Jamar Chase, 2 tremendous players in their own right. Look at, as soon as Shakir gets that ball, turns into a running back, he's reading the blocking that's happening in front of him. And then Vandermark, bang, puts Franklin down.
Trash too. That's so funny right here.
So that's exactly what I was going to say. Look how smoothly and deftly he navigates the falling carcass of Zaire Franklin. Doesn't get tripped up by the feet, doesn't jump over him, bumps into Vandermark a little bit, but doesn't allow it to disrupt him too much and has some contact balance. There's Vandermark using his inside arm, continuing to, get into Nick Cross and drive him upfield. It allows Shakir to get some more yards. Like, that's a great job from Allen, learning from earlier and adjusting and alerting and making the throw. It's great on Khalil Shakir, again, turning into a running back once he gets the ball in his hands and getting some yak. And then, Ryan Vandermark just bodying one dude, Shakir avoiding the carcass, and then getting
Jordan K says belt to ass.
Oh, that's really good. That's super good. Yeah, nice. I pulled it up. That's very good. That's exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great play. And again, it's we talked about it for years, the easy buttons that get presented for Josh Allen, right? Like, just the ability to just catch it and spit it out. Shakir has been that easy button for the majority of the year. And hopefully we see more of it, as Cooper comes back and Coleman comes back, and hopefully when Kincaid gets healthy. But Shakir has just been such a tremendously friendly option for Josh Allen because he makes so many plays getting the ball in and around the line of scrimmage or underneath and just making dudes miss. It was, that was a really great play. And like you said, they're at that time kind of getting close to kind of putting a nail in the coffin there. So that was a big moment.
And tying this into the Chiefs game, as we talked about, I'm worried if Kincaid can't go, because one of their answers, one of their outlets, aside from that wide receiver screen to Shakir, is that little bubble screen to Don Kincaid where they have the run action, that run read, and then Josh is able to just spit it out there if the pressure is coming, and then out of that trip set to Kincaid.
Yeah.
What answers are they going to have? We've seen wide receiver screens of Coleman. Obviously, he's not playing this game. What answers are they going to have versus Spags and that defense, which this might be the best iteration of the Spags defense that we've seen since Josh has been quarterback for the Bills. So it'll be interesting to see what answers they have versus that pressure. And more importantly, I showed the Ravens game, I showed the Texans game, and the Bills throw EPA versus them and the Colts. In those games, the defense played a lot of zone. I'm interested to see if Spags uses something along those lines. I mean, in one of the games, I think they used like 80% zone of those 3 games, like some of the higher zone percentages of the year. Obviously, that's not really Spags' game, but he does some crazy things with how he spins coverages. I think there may be a good package of plays that he's going to show man and then just flip to some cover 4 look.
Yeah.
And still able to attack the offensive protection to get Josh off the spot and get him under pressure and duress. But overall, I liked what Josh did in this game, all right, and how it applies to the Chiefs game. Josh didn't have his best game. He turned the ball over, which he has not done a lot of this year. But he still was playing slow, as we showed you when it came to escaping the pocket, getting the big play down the field to steal some points. When it came to scrambling with his back against the goal line, and he's in the end zone, he's able to move the chains there. And then that last play from the shoulders up, winning that play, getting them in the right play. When you play the Chiefs and Spags, that right there is almost more important than making some of those alien plays, getting them in the advantageous play against some of the nastier, more odd looks that many teams don't see from Spags.
That's such a great point. I talked about a bunch of that last night on the show with just the philosophy of Spags and how he operates. It's very much like, either he's going to get you or you're going to get him. And with what he does and what he brings, there are voids, there are opportunities to kind of find space, again, whether it's man or in those zones, because with how creative he gets and who he's sending and who's dropping and what's happening. And for Allen to play slow, like you said, I really like, that verbiage from you there. Not kind of playing sped up, not playing hurried, but just slow, calm, relaxed, poised, under control, whatever, verbiage you want to use for it. You need that given the chaos that Spags brings and how good they are against the run this year and how they've been able to stymie teams with that. We know how important the run game is to the Bills. If there's a lack of weapons on the outside, does that force them into the run a little more? Does that also play into the Chiefs' hands? And then the personnel conversation, I think, is really fun too. What they're able to do because of Justin Reed and Brian Cook and Shamari Connor and even Jaden Hicks, their fourth safety. Yeah. You don't know who's dropping where. They got, Connor is the safety, but is really like their slot guy and their big nickel.
Yeah.
There's a play against Denver from this last week where it's a split field look and it's Cook and it's Justin Reed. And then Connor is in the slot, but he moves up to the edge like he's going to rush. And as the snap comes, Connor drops. Yeah. Bolton shifts over their linebacker. Justin Reed drops from the split to fill where Bolton was, and then Brian Cook rotates to the post.
Yeah.
And it was a first down and it was a run and they fit it for only a gain of 3 or 4. You need to have that strong mental game and some easy buttons on top of it. And so seeing Allen and how he's been operating these past couple of weeks, you need to bring that mentality, that philosophy against this team, because you don't just get tested from a talent perspective and from a physical execution standpoint. Spags is going to test the hell out of you mentally. And so it's nice to kind of see him, like you said, how he's been in this state of mind. The run game getting a little more diverse again. The Colts snuff out a mid-zone run. The Bills shift to a little more duo and some more gap scheme things. They need to kind of bring all of it while also not showing their hand too much in case they meet them later in the playoffs. Really fun chess match this week between the Bills and Chiefs, as it always is.
Chiefs week's upon us now. We put this game against the Colts behind us. Fun film room on the defensive and offensive side, but Chiefs week's here. Two of the best quarterbacks that we're ever going to see in our lifetime are going to be going at it at Highmark Stadium. So I'm excited, obviously, for that game. But we appreciate everyone also joining us tonight in the film room live for the first time in a while, man. Good times tonight, and we appreciate everyone tuning in.
Absolutely. Everyone who joined us live, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it as we got back into the live saddle a little bit. If you have not already, please drop a like on this video here on YouTube. If you're watching live, it goes a sincerely long way towards helping us track and trend in front of more eyes and ears for the brand and for the show. If you're watching later on YouTube, that's cool too. Please drop a like on this video. Turn on notifications for the Film Room playlist here on YouTube. Subscribe to the Cover One channel where we have you covered pretty much every single day of the week with various levels of Bills and football content. If you're listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, that's cool too. Please rate and review and subscribe to the Cover One Film Room. Tell your family and friends and loved ones about the show, the brand, the channel, all that kind of stuff. We are still, grassroots, and word of mouth is such a tremendous part of how we grow and how we get in front of more eyes and ears. So if you enjoyed this, share it with a family, friend, loved one, anything like that. We greatly appreciate that. Eric, any parting words before we say goodbye to the people?
No, man. Good week ahead. I'm excited, and we're almost halfway there. So I'm excited for this week against the Chiefs, and we'll see how this team handles that big game. Again, it's still the regular season. The Bills have done a good job in the regular season against the Chiefs, but I do think this is a different team overall and philosophically. I think this is something different than what the Chiefs have seen. Will it work? We don't know, but I do think this is a different team and different matchup.
Yeah, it's a different iteration of this Bills offense, how they operate philosophically, what their identity is, what their foundation is, and then the layers they build upon it. It's different than what we've seen before. And will it be enough to get the win in the regular season and then potentially a win in the playoffs if they meet again, which seems to be their fate every year? We will see. Regardless of what happens during Bills and Chiefs, we will have you covered here in the film room next Wednesday. with a breakdown, good or bad, offense, defense, individual player pieces. You folks know what to expect from us there. But until we see you next week, for myself, Anthony Prohaska, for Eric Turner, for our producer, Mr. Chris Seth, who helps us with anything and everything behind the scenes and who we greatly appreciate. That'll do it for us here in this episode of the Film Room. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. We'll see you next week. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.